In a small town named Ludendorff in North Yankton, three notorious criminals, Michael Townley, Trevor Phillips, and Brad Snyder, rob a bank. During the heist, Michael says,
"We forget 1,000 things every day. How about you make sure this is one of them?"
remember this quote as it will be important later. The heist quickly spirals out of control, and the crew are pursued by the law. Soon after crashing, Michael and Brad get shot by FIB agent Dave Norton, and Trevor escapes. In the aftermath, Michael is seen watching his own funeral from a distance, evidencing that he had faked his death. He changes his identity and moves into a mansion in Los Santos, leaving Trevor to believe he's dead and Brad was arrested. Flash forward 9 years later, we jump to 2013 Los Santos. We see Michael again, who now goes by the name Michael DeSanta. He appears to be living a lavish, luxurious lifestyle with his wife Amanda and two kids, Jimmy and Tracy. But as revealed in his shrink appointment, his life seems to be in ruins. His wife Amanda is getting raw dogged by other men on a weekly basis, his daughter is looking for fame in all the wrong places, and his son is a basement-dwelling gooner. What a life! The focus is switched to Franklin Clinton, a small-time hustler from South Los Santos looking to get out of the ghetto and into something bigger. He and his best friend Lamar Davis are part of a gang called the Families. They both work for a shady Armenian car dealer named Simeon Yatarian, who traps people in dodgy repayment contracts and then get Franklin and Lamar to repossess the vehicles. They are sent to repossess two high-end sports cars. After racing them back to Simeon's dealership, Franklin starts realizing this life isn't fulfilling, and he's growing tired of hustling but getting no further in life. Just before Franklin gets home, Lamar lets Franklin know about his yee-yee-ass haircut and how he needs to change it if he wants some bitches on his dick. Sometime later, Simeon sends Franklin to repossess a car belonging to Jimmy DeSanta, the deadbeat son of wealthy former criminal Michael DeSanta. Franklin breaks into Michael's mansion to steal the car, but Michael catches him and holds him at gunpoint. Franklin explains he is just doing what he's told, and Michael appears to respect the fact that he can follow orders without taking responsibility, and jokingly offers Franklin a beer at his house to explain how the world really works. Instead of killing Franklin or taking his son's car back, Michael forces him to drive the car straight through Simeon's dealership window. Franklin obeys his order and receives a couple bills before Michael beats Simeon to a pulp. This act of rebellion reignites Michael's criminal instincts and deepens Michael's disillusionment with his life of luxury and idle retirement. Daringly, Franklin visits Michael again, taking his joke from the other day seriously in hopes that Michael could help him get closer to leaving the hood and take part in bigger endeavors and white-collar crimes. They speak a little before Jimmy calls Michael, telling him he tried to sell Michael's yacht without permission, and now gangsters are trying to steal it. Michael and Franklin give chase in an attempt to retrieve it, further solidifying their bond, and sets up the mentor-student relationship between him and Franklin. Later on, Michael returns home to discover his wife Amanda getting back shots from her tennis coach. Enraged, he chases the coach out his house when Franklin turns up. The two of them chase the coach to a house in Vinewood Hills. In a fit of anger, Michael pulls the house down with a tow cable and psychotically celebrates his carnage, only to find out the house belongs to Martin Madrazo, a dangerous cartel boss. Now Michael owes Madrazo a substantial sum of money, pushing him back into crime to pay off the debt. This marks a critical moment where Michael accepts that his dream of peaceful retirement is over. Now in debt, Michael reconnects with Lester Crest, a former criminal associate and hacker mastermind who used to help him plan and perform heists back in the day. Lester helps Michael plot a way to make some money quickly. However, Michael must do a favor for him first. He is tasked with rigging a product launch of Life Invader, a parody of Facebook. Michael sneaks into the company, and after clearing a very dirty desktop, he plants an explosive in the prototype phone. Later on, Michael activates the explosive, killing CEO Jay Norris live on air during a product demo. Meanwhile, Franklin's life is still tied to the streets. Lamar, always looking for a quick payday, convinces Franklin to help kidnap a Ballers member named D. Lamar's Rottweiler, Chop, assists in tracking him down. Though the mission succeeds initially, they are forced to let D go due to Lamar using his cell phone to call the Ballers to let them know they're holding D for ransom. This could be a critical mistake, as the Ballers could potentially track the location of the cell phone Lamar used to call them. Knowing this, Franklin destroys Lamar's phone and releases D. It's clear Franklin is increasingly frustrated with Lamar's antics and longs to leave the street life behind for good, as he knows he'll never move on to do bigger things if he stays in the hood. To pay off Madrazo, Michael and Lester plan to rob Vangelico, a high-end jewelry store. They scout the location and come up with a plan. Michael suggests recruiting Franklin for the job, recognizing the young man's potential. This sets in motion the first major heist of the game, as Michael gets deeper into his old ways. Meanwhile, Lamar and recently freed older gangster Stretch ask Franklin to come along to a drug deal. There is a clear tension between Franklin and Stretch. Stretch demands respect from younger gangsters, such as Franklin for being an OG gangster. But Franklin is disillusioned with the gang life and doesn't see Stretch as someone to respect. The deal turns out to be an ambush by the Ballers, set up by D, the guy Lamar and Franklin had tried to kidnap not too long ago. This leads to a violent shootout. Franklin, Lamar, and Stretch end up escaping the building and fleeing the police. Michael and Lester put together a crew, including Franklin, to pull off the heist. During the heist, Michael throws a local traffic warden to the ground and says,
You forget 1,000 things every day, pal. Make sure this is one of them.
"Remember that from before?" Franklin's driving skills allow them to escape via dirt bikes through the sewers. The job is a success. Michael pays off his outstanding debts to Mr. Madrazo, and Franklin gets his first real taste of big-time crime. Shortly after, Michael and Franklin decide to celebrate the success of their heist. Suddenly, a man named Dave storms into Michael's house, seemingly knowing what Michael has done and very paranoid about the consequences. The focus switches to the northern part of the state, where we interrupt Trevor Phillips, who is seen having a romantic afternoon with a girl named Ashley. Trevor becomes quickly distracted by a news report where the traffic warden from before repeats Michael's infamous quote. He immediately recognizes the signature style of his long-lost friend, Michael, realizing that he's been alive all along and didn't die in the police shootout like he had believed for the past decade. Enraged, confused, and emotional, Trevor immediately lashes out, killing Johnny Klebitz, the leader of the Lost MC and protagonist of Grand Theft Auto 4 DLC, in a brutal outburst after he confronted Trevor for raw-dogging his girlfriend Ashley. Trevor then continues his rampage by wiping out most of the Lost members in the region to secure his dominance over Blaine County's drug trade. He then orders his dumbass friend, Wade, to go to Los Santos and search for anyone named Michael Townley. Later, Trevor meets with Tao Cheng, drugged-out son of the leader of the Los Santos Triads, Wei Chung, and his translator in an attempt to strike a drug deal with the Chinese. However, he finds out he has been beaten by his rivals, the O'Neill brothers. After finding out that the Triads are now working with the O'Neill brothers, Trevor crashes out. He assaults Tao Cheng and kills the O'Neill's entire family and blows up their farmhouse. In case it isn't clear, Trevor is absolutely insane and deals with betrayal and competition through sheer violence and destruction. Shortly after, Wade returns and tells Trevor that he found two Michael Townleys. One was in kindergarten and the other is 83 years old. However, he did find a Michael DeSanta that matched the description. Trevor and Wade set out to Los Santos in search for this Michael DeSanta. Along the way, Trevor stops to wipe out the last remnants of the Lost MC, completely annihilating their trailer park with sticky bombs. Trevor and Wade finally arrive in LS and move into Wade's cousin Floyd's apartment, much to Floyd's dismay. The next day, Michael finds weed in his fridge, which no doubt belongs to his loser son Jimmy. Michael, Jimmy, and Amanda get into a dysfunctional argument about the dynamics of their family when Trevor suddenly appears at Michael's house and interrupts the argument. The long-awaited reunion between Trevor and Michael is tense as Trevor confronts Michael about his fake death. Before things could escalate any further, the former duo put aside their differences temporarily when Jimmy mentions that his sister Tracy is auditioning for Fame or Shame, a sleazy reality TV show. Knowing that Tracy is going to make a fool of herself, Michael and Trevor make their way to the Maze Bank Arena where the show is being hosted. They come to find Laszlo Jones, the host, humiliating Tracy and taking advantage of her. Michael and Trevor chase Laszlo in a semi-detached truck across Los Santos until Laszlo's car battery runs out. They force Laszlo to humiliate himself, recording him doing a dance with his pants down, then tell him to fuck off. Seemingly forgiving, Trevor tells Michael to keep in touch as he'll be contacting him again soon. FIB agent Dave Norton calls Michael to meet him at the observatory to have a chat about the jewel store heist. We find out that before the North Yankton heist 9 years ago, Michael cut a secret deal with Dave Norton, who helped him fake his death, change his identity, and move into a mansion in Los Santos, leaving Trevor to believe Michael was dead and Brad was arrested. In return, Dave got all the glory for being the one who killed the infamous criminal, Michael Townley. Due to Michael's involvement in the jewel store heist, Dave tells Michael he must help him with some problems he's having in order to keep any information about their secret deal safe. Dave pulls Michael into a dangerous situation, knocking him out and forcing him to break into a morgue, disguised as a deceased patient in order to confirm the identity of a deceased FIB suspect. He is unable to accurately identify the suspect and escapes the morgue in a gunfight. Michael then meets with Franklin to let him know everything that's happened, from Trevor's return to his recent involvement with the FIB. He tells Franklin to leave town for a bit so he can avoid problems, but Franklin refuses. He stays by Michael's side in order to keep the connection they have, as he made more money with Michael than he has in his life. Meanwhile, Trevor continues to show his eagerness for entrepreneurial success by scouting out the port of Los Santos with Floyd and Wade with the intent to find something valuable to rob. Trevor is able to find out that there is a high-tech Merryweather device at the port of LS, which is being guarded by armed militia. Although it is unclear what exactly is being guarded, he knows that the FIB puts even more pressure on Michael. Now, Steve Haynes, an FIB agent and Dave Norton's boss, blackmails Michael into working with them. They want to get information out of a man named Mr. K, who is currently being held by rival government entity, the IAI. Dave forces Michael to bring Trevor and Franklin into the mix. The trio infiltrate the IAA, International Affairs Agency, headquarters to extract Mr. K, leading to an epic action sequence as they get into a shootout with some IAA agents. Franklin mans a sniper from a distance, whilst Michael extracts Mr. K hanging from a helicopter, piloted by Trevor, in which they escape. They successfully return Mr. K to the FIB. Not long after, Trevor teams up with Michael and Franklin to steal the Merryweather device so he could sell it to a foreign buyer. However, the heist ends up being pointless as Lester turns up in a hospital gown and forces them to return it. Turns out, stealing a super device and planning on selling it to the Chinese could put you on a most wanted government watch list. This failure frustrates Trevor, as the device could have been worth millions and set each of the characters up for the rest of their lives. Steve Haynes, Dave's boss, has Michael and Trevor do another job for him. He gets Trevor to torture Mr. K to extract information about a suspected terrorist, so that Michael and Dave could use this information to assassinate him. This mission is one of the game's most controversial and showcases Trevor's darker, sadistic side, as Mr. K was willing to give information the whole time and the torture was unnecessary. After the target is assassinated, Trevor drives Mr. K to the airport where he explains that he was aware how pointless the torture was. Michael, desperate to fix his broken family, tries yoga with Amanda and her instructor Fabienne, but it only ends in conflict as Michael gets frustrated when Fabienne begins putting Amanda in suggestive poses. Later, Michael goes on a drive with Jimmy to meet up with his friend. Jimmy then drugs Michael, leading to a surreal hallucination. Upon waking, Michael finds himself abandoned by his entire family, deepening his sense of isolation and failure. Lester contacts Franklin for an assassination mission that will manipulate the stock market in his favor. Franklin kills Brett Lowry, the CEO of Bilkinen Research, helping Lester's plans. Due to his exploitative success in the stock market, Lester begins to invest in property, purchasing a house in Vinewood Hills. He allows Franklin to move into the property as a reward for helping him. The trio must now work together on a complex job orchestrated by Steve Haynes. They are tasked with stealing government bonds from an armored car and taking these bonds to a man named Devin Weston. They use a tow truck to knock the armored car off the road. They blow open the doors of the car, and Michael escapes with the bonds. He brings the bonds to Devin Weston, who then tells Michael that he has a job for him, to steal 5 rare exotic cars. Michael is originally uninterested in Devin's proposal until Devin offers him a chance at working with legendary movie producer Solomon Richards, one of Michael's idols. Michael, excited by the opportunity, agrees to help out Devin. Not long after, Devin Weston has Michael, Trevor, and Franklin perform a heist on the first two cars he needs. Michael and Trevor pose as cops to steal the two high-end cars after Franklin challenges their owners to a street race. Blinded by his excitement to meet his idol Solomon Richards and want to have a feeling of success, on the drive back to the garage, Michael explains to Franklin that Devin Weston is the real deal, and he can help Franklin finally achieve his goal of making something of himself. Franklin isn't convinced as he doesn't trust Devin Weston and feels Michael may have misjudged his character. Before we continue, make sure you've liked and subscribed if you want to see more game recaps like this. Soon after, Trevor uses the LSPD's advanced surveillance technology to track down a Z-type car, the third car in Devin's grand scheme. Franklin successfully steals the car and returns it to Devin Weston. Meanwhile, Michael's passion for film comes to the forefront. He finally meets up with Solomon Richards at his studio in Los Santos, where Solomon Richards tasks him with dealing with Rocco Pelosi, a thug who's interfering with the production of Solomon's latest movie, Meltdown. Michael's ability to intimidate Rocco ignites his and Solomon's friendship. Michael and Trevor are summoned by Martin Madrazo as the cartel boss has a job for them. He tasks them with killing Javier, Martin's cousin, and retrieving sensitive documents as Javier is planning to testify against Mr. Madrazo. Michael shoots down a plane carrying Madrazo's cousin, while Trevor follows the plane across San Andreas on a dirt bike. Trevor retrieves the package from Madrazo and takes it back to Madrazo's house to discuss payment. Things go south, however, as the two get into an argument.
I asked for a fair day's pay after a fair day's work. Then he kind of got a little angry, so I admit, I kind of got a little angry.
Did you kill him?
What kind of fucking animal do you take me for? No, I didn't kill him.
Oh, fuck.
But I did kidnap his wife.
Oh, no! Oh, shit! What the fuck did you do?
Oh, I just told you what I just did.
So after kidnapping Patricia Madrazo, Martin Madrazo's wife, the two are forced into hiding. Franklin, still working for Devin Weston, infiltrates Richard's majestic studio to steal a JB700, further contributing to Devin's car collection. Franklin brings the car back to Devin's garage when Lamar pulls up suddenly. Impressed by the car Franklin had just obtained from Mr. Weston, he hastily agrees to help Franklin on retrieving the last two cars, much to Franklin's dismay. Franklin's growing awareness of Devin's shady dealings leaves him conflicted. Michael and Trevor are told to meet up with Dave Norton and Steve Haynes in Sandy Shores. They task Michael and Trevor with obtaining more money so they can fund a future heist on a research facility that is being used by the IAA to create a nerve agent. The IAA plan to give this toxin to terrorists so that the government will increase their funding, as the IAA specialize in fighting terrorism. Steve and Dave plan to steal this nerve agent so that terrorists don't get their hands on it, but first need funds in order to perform the heist. Michael and Trevor meet up with Lester in Paleto Bay to scout a bank, which is where they plan to rob the money they need to fund the future heist on the research facility. Shortly after, the gang finally robs the bank in Paleto Bay. They use heavy ballistic armor and weapons to assist them, but the job goes south as they find themselves under heavy fire from the local police and a noose team. They are able to fight their way through a chicken slaughterhouse and escape on the train. The action-packed escape leaves them with only a fraction of the loot, but they still make enough to fund a future raid on a high-security research facility, with some left over for them each to enjoy. Trevor once again plans an attack on Merryweather, this time getting Michael to help him hijack a Merryweather train, believing it contains something valuable they can use to appease Martin Madrazo. Trevor derails a train, causing two trains to collide into each other on a bridge. They retrieve the loot amongst the wreckage and escape on boat. Once on shore, the two argue about what they should do with it. Michael is able to convince Trevor to use the loot to square things with Mr. Madrazo and promises in return that they will rob the Union Depository, the biggest bank in Los Santos. The trio, along with Dave Norton and Steve Haynes, finally perform the heist funded by the Paleto Score. They infiltrate a government research facility to steal the dangerous nerve gas. Trevor later returns Patricia, Madrazo's wife, whom he'd been holding hostage. He also gives Mr. Madrazo the loot they had stolen from the Merryweather train. This act allows Trevor and Michael to return to Los Santos, finally making peace with Madrazo. Trevor returns to Floyd's apartment at Vespucci Beach, but is told by Floyd that he's not welcome as his wife Deborah has come home from her business trip and won't let him and Wade stay. The three of them get into a violent confrontation. It is unclear what happens, but it's safe to assume Trevor kills both of them. He then takes Wade to the Vanilla Unicorn strip club, which Trevor decides to take over as his new base of operations. Trevor's suspicions about Michael's lies reach a boiling point. He goes back to Ludendorff, in which Michael follows, and uncovers the truth about what really happened 9 years ago. Michael had made a deal with an FIB agent, and it was Brad who died in the botched heist and was buried in Michael's grave. Michael attempts to once again lie to Trevor, saying that Brad didn't survive being shot, but he did, so he took a deal, undermining the fact that he had made the deal prior to being shot. The two get into a standoff when they are interrupted by the Los Santos Triads, who are there to kill Trevor as revenge for assaulting Wei Cheng's son and taking out their business partners, the O'Neill brothers. Trevor, feeling utterly betrayed, abandons Michael to the mercy of the Los Santos Triads, who end up kidnapping Michael with the belief that he is Trevor's boyfriend. This marks the breaking point in their already fragile relationship. Franklin, Trevor, and Lamar deliver the last cars on Devin Weston's list from Los Santos to Blaine County. Franklin is asleep for most of the journey, which allows Trevor and Lamar to build a bond. The job successfully ends Devin's car theft operation, but leaves Franklin infuriated when he finds out that Devin Weston isn't paying them and is instead, quote-unquote, investing their money. Franklin meets up with Trevor, asking him to help him find Michael, to which he is basically told to fuck off. Franklin then turns to Lester, who helps him track down and rescue Michael from the Triads. This mission shows Franklin's growing leadership as he takes on a more prominent role in keeping the crew together. The government begins to crack down on Steve Haynes and Dave Norton's shady operations. They task Michael and Lester with infiltrating the FIB headquarters and stealing any incriminating files they have on Steve and Dave. In return, Steve promises to delete all files on Michael and his past. Michael makes it clear that this is the last thing he's doing for the two of them, and after this job, he's done, to which Steve agrees. Michael and Lester prepare for the upcoming FIB raid by stealing a janitor's ID card to help them gain access to the building when they perform the heist. Michael gets a taste of Hollywood revenge when he tracks down and kills Rocco Pelosi after the thug attacks Solomon Richards. As a reward for helping him out, Solomon Richards offers Michael an executive producer role on the movie Meltdown and includes his name in the credits. For once, Michael actually feels accomplished. After much turmoil, Michael finally reunites with his family thanks to Jimmy's advice. He brings everyone back together, determined to fix what's left of his broken home life. They attend a therapy session together where Michael and Amanda get into a heated argument. After, they both accept that they have a dysfunctional relationship and agree to stay together anyway. Michael, Franklin, and their accomplices infiltrate the FIB headquarters to steal incriminating files that Steve Haynes needs. However, whilst having access to the database, Michael also deletes all files on himself and Trevor too, freeing himself from the blackmail of Steve Haynes. Michael meets up with Dave and Steve Haynes at the Court Center to settle the deal once and for all, but is betrayed by Steve Haynes, who attempts to get his accomplice, Agent Sanchez, to arrest Michael. He does this so Michael doesn't testify about their various dealings, as the Bureau have caught on that Steve Haynes was behind the raid. A massive Mexican standoff erupts between the FIB, REAA, Merriweather, Michael, Dave, and Steve. Suddenly, Steve is shot in the leg by an FIB agent who was brought by Agent Sanchez, in which he retaliates by shooting Agent Sanchez in the head. Trevor arrives unexpectedly to help Michael, revealing that despite everything, Trevor is loyal to Michael and forgives his betrayal. Franklin is met by his ex-girlfriend, Tanisha, who tells him Lamar was set up by Stretch and kidnapped by the Ballers. Franklin, Michael, and Trevor work together to rescue Lamar from a steel mill factory up north. Franklin is growing frustrated with Lamar, as well as the cracks in the friendship that's been holding Franklin in the hood. After dropping Lamar home, Franklin is approached by Steve Haynes, who tells him he must kill Trevor as he is a dangerous liability. Soon after, Devin Weston attempts to shut down Solomon's film studio, taking the only copy of Meltdown away and giving it to his assistant to destroy. This was work Michael had done and felt proud of for the first time, and it was about to be destroyed. He chases down Weston's assistant to retrieve the film reel, ensuring that the movie he's been working on continues production, which results in a horror accident where Devin's assistant is sucked into a jet turbine. Michael later finds out that the movie was digitally saved, which means he had chased her for no reason. However, Devin blames Michael for the death of his assistant and exacts revenge. At the premiere of Meltdown, Devin Weston strikes back, revealing that he has sent a Merryweather hit squad to kill Michael's family. Michael rushes to save his wife and children, once again putting his personal life in jeopardy because of his criminal ties. Jimmy is able to help his dad, knocking out a Merryweather agent with his bong, but ruins the moment by teabagging Michael instead of the guard. With everything coming to a head, Michael, Franklin, and Trevor begin planning their ultimate heist, robbing the Union Depository. After careful planning, the trio pulls off the Union Depository heist with a crew, stealing 4 tons of gold. They face intense police in Merryweather and police opposition as they try to escape. The massive payday represents the pinnacle of their criminal careers. But the relationships between the 3 men remain fraught with tension. Not long after the heist, Devin Weston turns up outside Franklin's house, telling him he must kill Michael. Now Franklin has to choose whether he kills Michael for Devin Weston or kill Trevor for Steve Haynes. Stuck on what to do, Franklin meets up with Lester looking for advice, and they come up with a plan. Franklin instead meets up Lamar, Trevor, and Michael at the Foundry. Lester gives an anonymous tip to the FIB in Merryweather so that they arrive in the Foundry so they can be ambushed by the gang. Once the crew fight off the FIB in Merryweather at the Foundry, they take out each other's enemies to tie loose ends, including Steve Haynes, Stretch, Wei Cheng, and finally Devin Weston. Michael kills Stretch, Franklin kills Wei Cheng, and Trevor kills Steve Haynes before kidnapping Devin Weston. Franklin and Michael meet with Trevor to push a car with Devin Weston in the boot off a cliff. By the end of the mission, they emerge victorious, having conquered all their external threats. This ending represents a chance at redemption, with the trio standing united, at least for the moment. That concludes the story of Grand Theft Auto V. Please like and subscribe so we can hit 2,000 subscribers, and comment what game I should recap next.
Who you calling a nigga?
No, I'm not calling nobody a nigga.
Wait, what the fuck?